Members, it's the appointed time. We have the quorum. Welcome to this subcommittee meeting on matters relating to railways. Since the last meeting, we have received 6 information papers. The details are set out in the first agenda item. Yes, Mr. Tony Sai. Thank you, Chair. I would like, Chair, to follow up on the administration's response given on the 8th of July 2022. As we all know, the central Shatin link in mid-May, the cross-harbour section was commissioned. And the trains was changed from 12-car to 9-car. And the passengers difference is about 1,000. They said that the frequency of 3 minutes could be enhanced to 2 minutes, and it's currently in a headway of 2 minutes. I would like to know if the headway is 2 minutes. Could it cope with the situation during peak hours? I would like to know if the carrying capacity of the trains could cope with the number of passengers. Also, I would like to follow up on the influence on the carrying capacity of cross-harbour tunnel buses. Well, there has been a 5-month difference, so I would just like to ask for supplementary information on this. As the pandemic eases off, people's daily lives are resuming normal, but free border travel has not been resumed yet. Well, thank you, Mr. Jay, for your comments. We'll ask the administration to follow up on this. Members, please note that there is a letter issued by Hon Stanley on the 8th of August 2022 to this subcommittee recommending members to discuss the suggestion of having MTRC provide additional entrances exits at Hung Hom Station and Tai Shui Hang stations. Are there objections to incorporate this to the future agenda? Yes, Mr. Tony Sai. I don't have any objections to the suggestions made by Mr. Stanley Lee. I think MTRC should, or the government should review the stations to see if it can bring convenience to the public too at these stations. I hope that if there is relevant progress to these works, there can be update to members. Thank you, Mr. Tony Sai. I think that your comments are valid. I think MTRC should review the exits of different MTR stations apart from the stations suggested here. If there are no other comments, we now invite government officials to enter the room. Items for discussion at the next meeting, please pay attention to the agenda. And the next meeting will be scheduled at 8:30 a.m. on the 3rd of February 2023. There will be 2 discussion items. One of them is implementation progress of Railway Development Strategy 2014. Please refer to the papers on this item. And the second discussion topic would be service performance of MTRC. That is the second item on the items for discussion at the next meeting. Does anyone have any comments on these future discussion items? If not, we will now come to discussion item 3 of today's meeting, preliminary findings of strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030. Members who would like to speak, please press the request button. We'll now invite Secretary for Transport and Logistics to walk us through the paper. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. The government has been adopting the planning approaches of bringing forward infrastructure construction and increasing development capacity in taking forward transport infrastructure projects to unleash the development potentials of areas along the alignment of major transport infrastructure, catering for the transport and logistic needs of long-term development in a forward-looking manner, and strengthening cross-boundary integration with other cities in the Greater Bay Area. We strive to optimize the transport network against bottlenecks to provide public with more commuting options and shorter shorter journey time. The TLB is carrying out the strategic studies based on the planning vision and strategies of Hong Kong 2030 Plus towards a planning vision and strategy transcending 2030, published in October 2021 to explore the layout of transport infrastructure, which stretches to 2046. According to the initial findings of the strategic studies, we recommend the construction of 3 major railway and major roads projects. That is proposed by the CE. They include Northern Metropolis Highway, Shatin Bypass, Chung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel, Hong Kong Shenzhen Western Rail Link, Central Rail Link, and TKO Line Southern Extension. We will brief members on the alignment ideas and also functions of the different proposed railway and major road projects, and we will commence today the consultation. It is hoped that by the fourth quarter of 2023, we will be able to consolidate a major infrastructure development blueprint for Hong Kong, including a more concrete or specific alignment and also initial timetable for implementation of these projects. I would like to ask my colleagues to give members a presentation through the aid of a PowerPoint presentation. Please be as concise as possible. The first R is railway, the MR means major road. I would use this abbreviation throughout my briefing. The study objectives and principles of the study were explained by Secretary just now, so I would not repeat them. So here, I will brief members on preliminary findings and recommendations. But before that, I would like to talk more about R and MR and our future projections. This includes the major railway projects and proposed major road projects. You can see the pink area on the graph here. It shows the projects under construction, including Tung Chung Line Oyster Bay Station and Tuen Mun South Extension, as well as Hung Shui Kiu Station and also Pak Shak Kok Station. As for major road projects, please refer to the blue area. It shows the projects under planning, including on the left, Tuen Mun Bypass Route 11, Cheng Yi Lantau Link, and also the bypass for Northern Metropolis and Trunk Road T4 near Shatin, as well as improvement of Lion Rock tunnels and the one on the bottom right corner, Route 6 and Cross Bay Link, Chung Kwan O. According to the study, apart from the projects under planning and under constructions, well, with the completion of these projects and the upgrading of the signaling system of railway, we expect that the transport network can satisfy the short-term to mid-term transportation needs until 2041, and the bottlenecks will be relieved. As for the Northern Metropolis, that is the east-west connectivity and the north-south connectivity between Northern Metropolis and the Harbour Metropolis, there are still very high demand for transportation services. For initial findings, we recommend 3 strategic railways and 3 major roads. You can see from the screen the general distribution of these projects and the alignments. I will talk in detail later about the alignment. As for the 3 strategic railways, on the far west, we have the Shenzhen Hong Kong Western Rail Link, that is the Hung Shui Kiu with Shanghai section. And around Northern Metropolis, we have the other railway projects, and also we have the Central Rail Link I'll first talk about the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link, Hung Shui Q in Shanghai. The section is about 8 km in length for the Hong Kong section. It starts from Hung Shui Q station connecting to Shanghai of Shenzhen. Regarding the design of Hung Shui Q station, we will allow flexibility for it to connect to other parts of Hong Kong. And this railway project will facilitate travel between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, as well as promoting connectivity between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area. And for Central Rail Link, it will passes through Tsuen Wan and Kwai Chung northeast. From Kowloon Tong, it will enhance the north-south connectivity around Northern Metropolis, and it will alleviate the congestion problem in Tsuen Ma Line. Now we come to Tseung Kwan O Line Southern Extension. It proposes an extension from the Lotus Park Station to the proposed Tseung Kwan O Area 137. It will enhance the transportation facility in the new development area. For this project, depending on the technical feasibility and environmental impact, as well as the land required, we will carefully consider the most suitable transit mode for implementation. For major road projects, the first one is Northern Metropolis Highway. It is about 18 km long, running from Tin Shui Wai in the west to Lo Wu South in the east via Shatin and Kutong North. The sections will pass through wetlands, ponds, and mountains, and it will be in the form of tunnels. It will enhance the accessibility of the development node and release or unleash the development potential in new territories. The next one is Shatin Bypass. It is about 15 km long, connecting Fanling Highway in the north with the existing strategic roads near Cheung Wan. And it provides a major road that connects new territories and Kowloon West, and it will alleviate the traffic on Tolo Highway. A third one is Tseung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel. It's about 2 km long. It will be the third road tunnel in Tseung Kwan O. It runs from Tseung Kwan O Town Center and Yau Tong area in the form of a tunnel. It meets the traffic demand arising from Tseung Kwan O Area 137 and enhances the connectivity between Tseung Kwan O and the external area, and it will also alleviate the traffic pressure on existing roads in the Tseung Kwan O area. I would like to talk about the way forward. This December to March next year, we will collect views from the public. We will carefully consider the views we collect and review them, and we will conduct preliminary engineering technical assessment and strategic environmental assessment, hoping that by the fourth quarter of 2023, we'll be able to come up with the major infrastructure development blueprint for Hong Kong. Okay. We have 15 members who have pressed the request button to speak. I hope I will be able to give enough time for each member to speak. 4 minutes for each member. We may overrun. So please reserve enough time for government officials to respond to your questions, and I'll draw a line after you have spoken. For those who have not been here, please come to the meeting as soon as possible. First, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. I welcome the strategic studies from the administration. We have heard different views for proposed major road projects and railway projects for Northern Metropolis. If this is projecting the traffic condition for 2046, I think this is not adequate. For Taku Lane New Town project, the feasibility study is still ongoing, so there's not enough interfacing with that proposed project. I would like to know for the major road projects proposed, Are you going to provide strategies for interfacing with the Takuleng New Town project from east to west or from south to north? There needs to be a connection with Takuleng, and I wonder if there is any strategies or facilities to support the interfacing.
And looking at the consultation document, there are a number of railways and major roads, but there is no timetable for any one of them, and the priority accorded to them. Now, for all these major roads and railway projects, do we have enough manpower to cope with the workload? If we don't have enough manpower, what measures does the government have up its sleeve? Will there be any special measures to deal with this? Secretary. Right, a couple of questions there. The first one is about Takuleng. That's about the Northern Metropolis development. The Development Bureau and the CDD are looking at the land use in the Northern Metropolis. And the TD and highways are also working together to examine the land use in these areas and also the need for transport infrastructure. Now, you may ask, we have left this out. In the Northern Metropolis, we are planning for the land use. So we haven't included these in the document. But as we take forward the Northern Metropolis, if there are any strategic needs for certain transport infrastructure, we'll certainly bring this up for discussion with members. As to the timetable and the manpower arrangement, well, this is a legitimate question. In terms of timetable, the consultation period will last for 3 months, and we will be collating views on these various projects. And as I said earlier on, we're going to be conducting some detailed feasibility study and the EIA and so on. So next year, we will deal with this. In terms of manpower, this is a holistic project. We're not just dealing with an infrastructural development, so we will be looking at these in a holistic manner. So the Development Bureau and various other bureaus and departments will be looking at these together. Mr. Frank Yan. Chairman, I've got a lot of questions regarding the Zhongguanou Yao Tong Tunnel. As the presentation said, this is alleviate traffic in Tuking Link, and Yao Tong and Tuking Link is just one station apart. Why do you need such a tunnel? Also, you try to facilitate Area 137. Now, the residents will need to go through the Zhongguanou Lamtin Tunnel before they go to this Zhongguanou Yao Tong Tunnel. Why do you need an extra tunnel? And the exit is at Charcoal Ring Road. Charcoal Ring Road and Yao Tong are just 15 seconds apart. Why do we need such a tunnel? Why do you need to take this to Yao Tong? If Zhongguanou, people in Zhongguanou want to go to Kowloon West, they have the Zhongguanou Lamtin Tunnel and the T6 route. Will this be aggravating the traffic in Zhongguanou and Yao Tong? Secretary. Well, thank you very much for the question. This has to do with the planning for Zhongguanou. The Commissioner will be giving a detailed explanation. In Zhongguanou, we have the Zhongguanou Tunnel On the 11th of this month, the Zhongguanou-Lamtin Tunnel will be commissioned, and also the Cross Bay Link. We have conducted very detailed study on the transport needs. I defer to the Commissioner to address this question. Thanks very much. The population in Zhongguanou is increasing. We're fully aware of that. Zhongguanou-Lamtin Tunnel will be commissioned soon, and this will alleviate the traffic from Lohas Park going to Yaotong, Yixi, and Kowloon. We anticipate that Area 137 will be developed, and this tunnel will alleviate the traffic for Area 137. But for Zhongguanou Central, we are planning the bus routes there. We are thinking whether it would be better for people to use the Zhongguanou Tunnel or the Zhongguanou-Lamtin Tunnel. Now, with the development of Area 137, a better way to deal with it is to provide tunnels in north, south, and central of Zhongguanou. And by the time this tunnel is completed, the central route and the T2 route will be commissioned, and the connectivity with Kowloon and Kowloon East and West will be much better. So this tunnel will alleviate the traffic for Zhongguanou Central, and the Zhongguanou-Lamtin Tunnel will be serving Area 137 and Lohas Park. These are two large residential developments, as well as the industrial estate. Mr. Ngan, my question is why Yaotong, to alleviate the traffic? Perhaps you can connect it up with T2 and other areas. Why Yaotong specifically? Yaotong is a tiny little area. There are 3.5 constituencies there. I do have reservation about the siting at Yaotong. Well, the Zhongguanou Tunnel and the Zhong-Lam Tunnel and the Zhongguanou-Yaotong Tunnel, we will alleviate the traffic in the north, central, and south of Zhongguanou. In Yaotong, there may be some district improvement to allow the traffic to pick up the trunk route. Chairman, the island south-west, and there are other routes. I mean, you haven't completed the other routes, and you're still proposing new routes. In the booklet, it says that over the past 10 years, there are some projects that have been studied, and the two projects are included in this booklet. The red square ones are the railway projects that are completed. There is the North Island Line and the South Island Line West. Is this booklet a little bit misleading? And you're merely mentioning this without completing it, but you talk about these being contemplated over the past 10 years. Now, South Island Line West, you don't have any timetable. We don't even know when it's going to be undertaken. And there will be the third CBD Kao Yi Chao reclamation. If you don't put the Northern Island Line there, at the end of the day, the Island Line will be heavily congested. Secretary and Commissioner, why don't you come down to Admiralty between 5 and 6 p.m. You find it really hard to squeeze past the station. Why don't you provide the North Island Line? How soon are you going to be delivering on these two lines? Yes, a Northern Island Line. Right, South Island Line and North Island Line, we will certainly tie in with the redevelopment of Wafu Estate, and this will be coordinated. As to the North Island Line, we are looking at the technical issues together with the MTRC, and we are monitoring the rail infrastructure on Hong Kong Island. We look at the congestion and the loading factors. And once we got the technical issues out of the way, we will be explaining these to the members of the public. Secretary Wharf for State, I wanted to go and have a visit. Redevelopment is underway, and you don't even have the timetable for this railway. By the time the Wharf for State is completed, you will then proceed with the study, and there will be a couple more years. And also the North Island Line, in 2014, it was mentioned that a study would be undertaken, and you've been studying this for more than 10 years. How many more decades do you need for your study? Secretary. I am only pleased to conduct a site visit together with members. And I'm willing to maintain communication with the district. Mr. Chen, we're going to be talking about the 2014 railway development. We will be holding the government to the project, so don't worry, we can have more discussion then. Mr. Kissen-Yang. Chairman, we are discussing the strategic studies on railways and major roads between or beyond 2030. There are 3 major roads and 3 strategic railways. Now, I am also holding you to some projects. Now, page 9, Kai Tak is a development area, is a CBD2. Now, Kai Tak development is in full swing now. According to the original plan, there is the model rail, but that has been scrapped. There is only one major road linking into the cruise terminal. It is really chock-a-block congested. Now, it's going to be a CBD2, Mr. Secretary. Will you consider in Kai Tak area whether there will be any mass transit system to unblock the congestion? I think you have to deliver your pledge. And Diamond Hill Comprehensive Development Area, in Wong Tai Sin, there is a population of 200,000. People have to use buses, and there are always lost trips, and there are long queues. Now, in the east, there is the mass transit, but what about here? Now, you talk about a comprehensive development area. What about mass transit? What about a railway connection? It doesn't make sense to have the comprehensive development without the railway. Chi Wan-san, Zhou Yun, why didn't you consider providing the mass transit system there? Secretary, there are 2 questions. Kai Tak, Wong Tai Sin. Now, for Kai Tak, the Commissioner can further elaborate on this, but let me say this first. The government announced that there will be a coordinated approach to deal with the Kai Tak, the traffic in Kai Tak. For Wong Tai Sin, the Lands Department can address the issue regarding Kowloon East. I defer to the Commissioner of Transport regarding Kai Tak first. Yes, Commissioner. Chairman, thank you. Yes, indeed, in Kai Tak, as members said, there was mention of the mass transit. I think he's talking about the EFLS, the Development Bureau. Decided that it wasn't really cost effective, and the Transport Department has, in the light of this, re-examined the transport, the traffic arrangement. At the present moment, at Kai Tak, we're going to have different options, minibuses, buses, taking passengers to different places, to Kowloon East, Kowloon West, or even to across the harbour. And residents will be connected with Kai Tak Station and Song Wong Toi Station. And these are the two major MTR stations. I understand that members want to have more options in terms of roles. Now, we will consider this, although it is not in the RMR context. We'll certainly consider other options as well.
Sorry, Chair, I would like to interrupt. Even with minibuses and buses, if the road is congested, it is hard to get out of that road or traffic. You have to think about it. Sorry, there's no time for Commissioner to respond to that question. Mr. Stanley, thank you, Chair. I have pity for Tseung Kwan O residents. It was mentioned in the 2014 plan that there would be a railway project from Poland, but now it's being taken out of your plan. And for Tseung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel, why do we need that project? Tseung Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel is commissioning soon, and you are constructing another tunnel in that area. I got views that this is redundant. And also, why do you need to conduct reclamation for the Tseung Kwan O Line Southern Extension? We recommend an inland alignment. Without such railway, how are you going to develop the various industries in Hong Kong? Why don't you leave out the Tseung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel project and save the money for other projects? So my question is, can you not use the reclamation option for the Tseung Kwan O Southern Extension Line project? Secretary, please. Thank you, Chair. We're now using an elevated system for the proposed project. As mentioned by Commissioner for Transport, the Tseung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel is beneficial to the general distribution or layout of transport in Tseung Kwan O. The two Southern Line extension in Eastern Kowloon and also the project in Po Lam, I would like to defer it to Transport Department. Thank you. For the East Kowloon line, we explored the feasibility for using underground heavy railway system that goes all the way from Kowloon to Po Lam. But with the hilly topography, when you go up to the mountain, it goes all the way up to 160 meters. So there is a limit for the train to go up all the way to the hill, and it will not bring a lot of benefits, because if the station is so high up, then the passengers will have to walk all the way to the station, and including the traveling time, it will be very time consuming for passengers. So we're now exploring the feasibility of environmentally friendly system. My question is clear. I just wonder if you can leave out the reclamation part. Well, for the reclamation, it is mainly for protecting the tunnel facilities so that the train can go underground. So will you reclaim land? Well, reclamation is not the major part. We have to build certain structures above ground And for the Lohas Park Station, it is an above-ground railway. And in order for the train to go to Area 137, we need to build some structures to protect the coastal part. Perhaps you can follow up on Mr. Lee's question after the meeting. Next, Chen Xiu-hong. For the initial findings of the strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030 and the proposed 3 road projects and railway projects, I generally give my support. I think members raised some good questions. Since this is strategic studies, I would like to ask some strategic questions. In paragraph 7 and 8 of the document, it mentions that it will explore the increase in population in northern metropolis and the demand for transportation arising from all these development projects. Well, I'm concerned if the administration used the traditional approach of developing new towns for these projects. I want to know when you estimate the carrying capacity, assuming that the development of all the areas or projects will continue. I want to know what kind of analysis did you conduct? Did you conduct the analysis through housing projections? And also, did you take into account the job opportunities arising from the development projects and adjust your railway projects accordingly? Is that a question for Transport Department? Transport Department will give a more elaborate explanation. Well, as we all know, we need to look at the planning in a forward-looking manner for various sectors, developments, and also job opportunities arising from these developments. We certainly take these into consideration when we do the planning. As for cross-boundary developments, there are different ports in the northern part of Hong Kong. We take them into consideration as well. So we create a model when we conduct the planning, and we do an integrated estimate or projection. I would like to ask Transport Department to explain the analysis or how we conducted the analysis in the strategic studies. Mr. Tony Yao, please. Thank you, Chair. When we did the projections, be it the railway projects or major road projects, we used a model. Well, we projected that when we got to 2041 and 2046, we did an estimate or projection on the population increase, and then we worked with the Development Bureau to see the general future development for Hong Kong. We look at the land use for industrial use and also residential use, and we then estimate the demand for transportation services. Just like the survey we did on the commuters' traveling pattern, and we also take into consideration the distribution of various properties. We then project the demand for transportation services, and we look at whether members of the public will, say, for example, use private cars or other transportation means when commuting. And then we derive the need for transport, and then we will come up with parts where there will be bottlenecks. Then we plan our railway and major road projects, and we will continue to follow up on our projections to see if improvements needed for our plan. Ms. Lam So-wai, thank you, Chair. Well, the government is going to carry out a 4-month consultation on this strategic studies. I would like to focus on Chang Kwan O Southern Extension Line. Well, this is going to be 3 km long, and Secretary said that during the planning of this project, it will take into consideration the population distribution in the area. I got objections from some 10,000 residents of this project saying that there would be a problem to conduct reclamation in an area that is less than 40 meters wide. Well, can you dispel our concerns or address our concerns? Because I was just talking to the residents downstairs, and a lot of residents told me that Secretary has not been clear about the details of this project. They are concerned about pollution and air pollution and also environmental impacts, and the Cross-Bay projects are having a huge impact on them with the reclamation projects, and the Area 137 projects would aggravate the environmental problems. Can there be a proposal that can leave out reclamation part, for example, an elevated track, so that you can still implement your project? I would like to invite the Transport Department to respond to this. We've heard views from residents. As mentioned, when we construct a tunnel, there needs to be some protection facilities. Well, we've heard views from residents, and in our consultation paper, we mentioned that apart from extending the Lohas Park or linking up Lohas Park Station to the southern part of Tseung Kwan O, we are trying to come up with other proposals. So we will continue to collect views from the public during consultation. Any other follow-up questions, Ms. Lam? No, thank you. If not, next, Mr. Chow Shou Hong. Thank you, Chair. I support this strategic studies in principle, as well as the proposed 3 railway projects and 3 major road projects. I agree that in the long run, the government should use railway system as the backbone of the transport infrastructure. But it's hard to alleviate problems for commuting simply relying on the railway system. For the mass transit or transportation facilities in Northern Metropolis, did you take that into consideration in your planning, and how do you improve the operation of buses and minibuses in the future? For buses and minibuses, are you leaving enough room for them to operate in Hong Kong so that they can continue to play their roles and leverage their potentials in mass transport? Secretary, please. Railway system as the backbone of our transport infrastructure, it's taking up 41% of the carrying capacity and 33% for buses. Now I will defer to Transport Department to talk about room for operation for buses. Thank you. Well, Mr. Chow was right about the operation or business environment for buses and minibuses. In our strategic studies, we opened up a chapter for buses and minibuses. As you can see, that Northern Metropolis covers a large area, even with railway projects and proposed major road projects. The connectivity between each area or district, and also internally for each district, it is still important. Buses can carry a large number of passengers, but for green light buses, we need to take that into consideration too during our planning. We'll do a few things in the future. We'll first satisfy the connection needs within each district, and if possible, we will link those routes up to town centers. As for competition between buses and green buses, we hope that there won't be direct or vicious competition, so that there is room for them to operate. For buses, they're mostly double-decker buses, but in some districts, during initial phase of the construction projects, we may not need large buses like double-decker buses. So in our strategic studies, this is what we have to look into as well.
Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Chairman, thank you. Today, we are discussing the strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030. The government is coming here for our views. I am supportive of this, but the government hasn't quite delivered the previous pledges, and they are putting forward new ideas. Now, the old pledges that we're talking about 2014, the Railway Development Strategy, and there were a lot of rounds of applause, but 6 years on, nothing much has happened, and the government remains so indecisive. Now, one of the indecisive examples is that the Shanghai Hongshui-Kiu Railway would go ahead. Now you are rehashing this idea, and the Shanghai scale has expanded, and the prospect for cooperation would be ever brighter. I think back in 2014, you must have foreseen this kind of development. This is an example of indecisiveness. Now, you failed to deliver your pledges. There are 7 projects. Professor Anthony Cheung talked about the timetable, the roadmap for many of the projects, but for 6 years, nothing much happened. The Twin Mun Road South Extension, Dongchong Extension, it wasn't until the 7th year that the government decided to go ahead. But anyhow, we should look ahead. Despite my lamentation, I hope that they would get on with the proposed projects. Now, there are 3 major road projects and 3 strategic railways. In 2014, there were 7 projects, and this is in addition to these. And I think they are well worth going ahead. Hongshui-Kiu Shanghai Railway, we should go ahead with that. I hope that they will expediting the process. I said before, and I say now, that the people of Hong Kong do understand the railway planning. If you've been to Tokyo, they have the circular route for the railway infrastructure, so I think that this project is well worth supporting. Now, the Shatin bypass, and this is a long time coming. The total highways will have to be suffering from massive congestion for many more years to come before we will see the Shatin bypass. So despite my support, there is indeed a big question that in the engineering sector, we sometimes run out of jobs. Other times, we're inundated with jobs, and many have already left the trade. Now, with so many projects bunched together, have you got any manpower projection? This is a very question I'd like to highlight for the administration. Secretary? Yes, very briefly. The Development Bureau is working on this. The CIC Construction Industry Council will be looking at the volume of work, and they will be coming up with the projection, and then the the manpower demand will be put in place. And the Development Bureau will work in conjunction with various parties to work on this issue. Not just the frontline staff, even engineers and so on. As I said earlier, we will be liaising with the tertiary institutions as to how they can increase the training volume. Right, let me say something about the timing. We have a lot of members yet to speak, and there are 3 members who press button after I drawn the line. This is a significant subject, and I hope that I will squeeze in the other 4 who joined in after I drew the line there. I'm going to be extending the meeting to allow more members to speak. Right, here is the order. Mr. Tony J, Mr. Michael Tin, Mr. Bill Tang, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Gary Zhang, Mrs. Regina Ip, and Mr. Yu Park Lew, Mr. Dominic Lee, Mr. Holden Chow, and Mr. Michael Lok. Mr. Tony J, please. Thank you, Chairman. The government is conducting these strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030. Nobody would dispute that. But we do pin very high hope on the completion. I, like other members, have already said, like Dr. Low Wai Kwok said, the 2014 Railway Development Strategy put forward a lot of projects. There are 7 projects altogether, and they failed to be completed before 2016. And strategically, what in your consultation exercise, what standards do you have? Let's say, for instance, Chairman, if you're going to build major roads, in terms of Hong Kong, do you have any target to achieve a journey within a certain period of time, and in terms of minutes? Let's say if I travel from Hong Kong Island to the Northern District, do you have any way to measure the time, any projected traveling time, in particular the cross-boundary traffic? Now, for railway, you tend to say that there will be development within the 500 meters. Otherwise, it would be hard for us to understand the future development and for us to ascertain whether the government will measure up to the KPIs. And nothing is said about this. In this consultation, I think the government should make available certain information, like, for instance, with the 3 railways and 3 major roads, in terms of population and development, what is the government's idea? Do you have any priority in moving people in, and that you are trying to adhere to the principle of infrastructure-led planning approach and capacity-creating planning approach? You must have some direction in place, because otherwise it will be hard for the public to have any focused discussion. Previously, the consultation was like blue skying, and there were so many different ideas, and they are unfocused. And I hope that you will be adopting a more focused approach. Why do you leave some time? Why don't I think I need to leave any time, because I'm expressing my views. If you don't make available the relevant information and allow people to express the views any way they like, then the government may have to address the politicized issues. And they are dealing with the matters in such an unfocused way. You don't have any priority for the roads and railways. You are tying in with the population increase, economic development, and community development. I hope that there will be more information to be made available for a more focused discussion by the public. So much I have to say. Thank you. Mr. Michael Tin. Chairman, thank you. Secretary, I expressed concerns about the Central Rail Link, the Northern Metropolis. There will be 330,000 people. A lot of people will not get on at Kowloon Tong Station. If you link it at Kowloon Tong, you're ignoring the needs of the 330,000 people in Northern Metropolis. And the Central Rail Link will be heavily congested. Now, the Central Rail Link should be extended to Lim Mok Shu Yao Shek Yam to serve a population of an additional 130,000. While I was working in Tsuen Wan, I've been expressing this aspiration. But beyond Shek Lei Estate, what route should you connect it up to make it most viable? Now, let's not talk about the cost of the stations. Let's talk about the cost for the tracks. It is 4 billion per kilometer. Shek Lei Kowloon Tong, it is $32 billion. Now, people may not be able to get on the train if you connect it with Kowloon Tong. It doesn't quite make sense. I've heard some comments that this is not a judicious use of the taxpayers' money. I think the best way is to link Shek Lei to Kwai Fong Station. You look at this line. Secretary, please have a look at this. The red line is for Kowloon Tong. The purple one is linking up with Kwai Fong. Here, people can go to urban areas or cross the harbour. Shek Lei to Kwai Fong, it is 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers. It is $4 to $6 billion or thereabout. The advantage is that the Tsuen Wan line passenger, if they want to go to Kowloon Central, if they take the Tsuen Wan line, they can change to Kam Sheung Road. Today, they have to go all the way to Mei Fu, get off, walk 8 minutes, and get onto the Tsuen Wan line to go to Mei Fu. Now, to link it up with Tsuen Wan line is the best option. Is there any room? Now, with the Israel operational, there is 10% more spare capacity. The new system will come about in 2025, and there will be additional 16% headway and generating 30% of the capacity. So this is doable. I hope that you will consider this connectivity. Last time you said that you would seriously consider this. I'd like to hear further from you. Secretary, thanks very much for mentioning the costing. Now, the cost consideration definitely in taking forward the road development and rail development will certainly be the major considerations. And with this proposal, how cost effective will this be? And this is another consideration that we have in mind. I'd like to defer to the highways to address the issue of linking this up with Tsuen Wan line. Director of Highways. Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Tin, for making these professional proposals. Now, when we consider the Central Rail Link, I think we have the same objective. We don't really want to see the traffic generated by the Northern Metropolis to push the railway beyond acceptable level. Now, this is very much a north-south connecting rail line, this Central Rail Link. At Kam Tin, it will be connected with the Northern Link, which is under consideration. This is also serving the northern metropolis. The passengers from Canton can be traveling to Kowloon Central. Now, Mr. Tin talked about linking these up with the Chunwan line instead of Kowloon Tong. Indeed, we did do some modeling to ascertain the results. That the connection at Kowloon Tong certainly serves some useful purpose. Now, Mr. Tin talked about Chunwan line. There is, because of the East Rail crossing the harbour, there is some spare capacity. That's a fact. When we consider the cost effectiveness, we have to consider the advantages of linking this up with Kowloon Tong, because that would relieve the pressure from Kam Sheung Road to Chunwan. However, we will certainly consider Mr. Tin's idea of linking it up with the Chunwan line.
Perhaps you can follow up on the matter with Michael Tin after the meeting. Next, Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Chair. Over the past decade or so, I have served in various districts in Hong Kong. I think the development of railway and major road in Hong Kong has been very slow. The Shenzhen railway line is now 500 kilometers long, but ours is 270 kilometers long. And the railway system can barely meet the demand for transport from the general public. In Shenzhen, the railway system helps to create development, but for our railway system, it's only managing to catch up with the development. I hope that we will adopt a forward-looking approach in planning our railway system instead of catching up with the development of the city. I have an important question or comment for the Bureau. For the 3 railway and major road projects, why are we ignoring the 4th road or corridor? While we focus on the development in the northern part of Hong Kong, we should not assume that the economy in the harbour area or Hong Kong Island will go down. We should think about the capacity instead of focusing on redistributing the traffic. We should have a 4th cross-harbour tunnel. If we are proposing a Cheung Kwan O Yau Tong tunnel, why are we not proposing another tunnel that connects other parts of the city? It's only 3 kilometers long with the currently proposed project. It's very short, and you need to carry out reclamation. And the good thing about having a 4th cross-harbour tunnel is that the 600,000 population in Cheung Kwan Ho will not travel to only Kowloon, but they have the option of using the Cheung Kwan O tunnel to travel to Hong Kong Island. Well, during peak hours in the morning now, most of the buses are going from Cheung Kwan O to Kwun Tong. Why do you not increase the capacity by opening up another tunnel? Well, you may not need Cheung Kwan O Yau Tong tunnel, but you will need a 4th cross-harbour tunnel. What do you think? Secretary, please. For Kau Yi Chau reclamation projects, there is a railway line that connects with western part of Hong Kong Island. So this will be the 4th cross-harbour railway line. So we'll have major road projects and also railway projects that cross the harbor. I will defer to the Transport Department to talk about the Siu Sai-wing proposal. Well, we have looked at the feasibility of this. If it only travels to Siu Sai-wing, I think it will not be very beneficial or cost effective. How about for road projects? Well, we have similar issues. After it connects to Siu Sai-wing, it has to be linked up with the other parts of Hong Kong Island. Understood. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. As mentioned by Dr. Low, the planned projects have not been delivered, and you are now planning new projects. Well, as long as the Hong Kong government is decisive enough and give the confidence to the general public, it's all right for the government to open up new projects. The reason I'm saying this is because I do hope to see the completion of new projects. I appreciate the planning of the railway and road network, but something have been left out in your plan. Members talked about the traffic pressure in Tseung Kwan O. If you look at the graphs, a lot of pressure are given to the Kwun Tong area and also East Cross-harbour Tunnel. Well, members proposed the option of extending the southern line. You may say that it's not very cost-effective to link up the southern extension line with Siu Sai-wing, but there will be future development projects there, so would you be able to do a bit more on railway or major roads to alleviate road traffic? It can be cost-effective in that sense if you look at it from that perspective. If the future development is going to be concentrated in the northern part, there are very few connections that go all the way up to the northern part. That means currently you have to first travel down to the south and then to the north. Well, 10 or 20 years ago, when there is a proposal like this, you have to take into consideration of different environmental impacts. But now with the Shatin bypass, there shouldn't be so many challenges. So you have to think about how you link up Tseung Kwan O with the northern part of Hong Kong. And my other question is about carrying capacity. That is from Tuen Mun East to Tuen Wan West. I believe that there will be population increase along the alignment of that railway line. I hope that the Bureau will do more in terms of formulating policies to come up with strategic development plans. Transport Department, please. Thank you. Mr. Lam. We see that for Khao Yi Chau development project as well as the Northern Metropolis project, as mentioned by the Highways Department, when you get to Hong Kong Island East, you get to mainly to the central part of the Hong Kong Island. So with the Area 137 development, we are linking up Kwun Tong with Tseung Kwan O 137. So if you have to travel west and then go back, it's quite convoluted. Well, we have the preliminary alignment design now, but in the long run, we hope that we can have direct connections between different areas. For example, through Central Kowloon, T6 trunk roads, and other major roads. Next, Mr. Gary Zhang. Thank you, Chair. The strategic studies on the 3 railway and 3 major road projects. Well, as a traffic engineer, I appreciate the proposed plans because there is a clear target for each project to solve current problems, and also it's able to project future challenges. It's not simply drawing a line on the map. So I quite appreciate this report. I would like to focus my question on Central Rail Link because it concerns the area I serve. Can the administration tell us, for this Central Rail Link, it is an extension of the Northern Link? Well, it is called Central Rail Link. It's easy for the public to understand, but it is indeed an extension of the Northern Link, which passes through Kam Sheung Road. But in the future, you will not operate the railway system or these 2 lines separately, right? Also, before the bottlenecks emerge, it is said that you would like to estimate the bottlenecks. Well, for the Tuen Ma line, the bottleneck appears in Kam Sheung Road. So the Central Rail Link, together with the current Northern Link, should be commissioned at the same time, and you should expedite the 2 projects so that you can alleviate the bottlenecks before it emerge. Otherwise, you will exert burden on Tuen Ma line. My third question is about the connection between Central Rail Link and also Northern Link, and I personally support the line to be linked up with Kowloon Tong. As far as I understand, Northern Link is part of Central Rail Link. It is a new north-south connection line. So you would want the new line to pass through Kowloon. I've served in Chun Wan for many years, but I cannot convince myself why you would link up this north-south connection line will go through Meifu. Well, Kowloon Tong is an important traffic node or transportation hub. I think it should be part of this connection line as you carry out the design for the project. And if the Central Rail Link passes through Kowloon Tong, we can create a half-hour circular living. And the maximum length of the journey would be about half an hour only. And it has been proved that a circular line is helpful in terms of the resilience of the railway system. Well, this is my view, and I hope that I will be able to get a response from the Bureau. Well, Highways Department, please. Thank you, Mr. Gary Zhang. For Kam Sheung Road, we hope that there will be an extension to the Northern Link that is currently under design, and it will go all the way to Kowloon. But for passengers from Tuen Mun, they have the option to get on Kam Sheung Road to Tuen Mun. It will be faster that way. Next, Ms. Regina Yip. Today's topic is strategic studies on railways and major roads beyond 2030. That is the preliminary findings of the strategic studies. How are you going to implement your plan in terms of deploying manpower and the cost? They're all unknown. Take, for example, the Tuen Mun Southern Extension line that is 2.4 kilometers long, it will cost some $11.4 billion. And for the Chuan Quan O line Southern Extension, the cost is unknown either. Well, what is the economic benefits of developing Chuan Quan O Area 137? More studies may have to be carried out to find out. But why are you leaving out the South Island Line West project in your consultation papers? At that time, Ada Young from the Transport Department said that made this proposal. And with the relocation of the residents in Pok Fu Lam, there will be a significant increase in population. And we've had long discussion about constructing the South Island Line West. Perhaps, Secretary, you can give us a timetable.
Secretary, for this South Island Line West, now this is the tie-in with the Wafu Estate redevelopment. For the stations, I mean, a part of the station is at the Wafu Estate. In 2027-28, the residents will be moving to the reception sites, and there will be decanting estates or blocks that will be built. We have to tie in with this timetable when we get on with the South Island Line West project. This is it. I'm pleased to hear from the Secretary. We will certainly closely monitoring the situation. In 27-28, when the residents move out, you have to provide the railway project, and we'll follow up on these going forward. Also, in Chuan Quan O, there is so much objection to reclamation, and I don't think the administration should take this lightly. Secretary, we won't, because we heard from other members expressing similar views regarding reclamation. We will maintain liaison with members and the residents, and where necessary, we will then explain the situation. We'll take on board or take into consideration their views. It's my turn next. Now, for the Central Rail Link, there is a strategic significance because the West Rail, the East Rail can be connected together, and that would provide a very good connectivity. If we want to link up all the railways, if any one of the lines were to suffer from problems, then we can then have more alternatives. However, there is no linkage between the Central Rail Link and the Tsuen Wan line. If there are any problems with the Tsuen Wan line or any other lines, then we cannot provide a backup in the form of the Central Rail Link. So I hope that somehow there should be some connection at Kwai Chung or Tsuen Wan between the Central Rail Link and the Tsuen Wan line to enhance the value of the whole line. I hope this will be considered. Second, Mrs. Regina Ip said that this is only a preliminary model. In many areas, we've seen an increase in population, in particular in the northern metropolis area. Kutong North, Tin Shui Wai, the population is rising. So in terms of your planning, I hope that there would be some timetable that would be made available to the public. And please let us have more information about this. Some members expressed concerns about the manpower availability. I hope that they will also consider this. My last question is, the Western Railway is a cross-boundary railway. the Secretary said that this is independent of the local network, and there will be discussion with the mainland authorities. Doesn't mean that there will be joint efforts to build this particular railway, the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link. Secretary, well, you mentioned the Central Rail Link. The Highways Director has already stated the government's position in this regard. Of course, we certainly consider members' views. The Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link, in Q1 next year, we do have a task force, and there will be a second stage strategic study that will look at the alignment, the cost, the technical issues, financial arrangement, and so on. All these will be taken into account in the second phase deliberation. That would take about 18 months or thereabout. Secretary, doesn't mean that there will be joint development of the rail. Secretary, well, that's precisely what we are talking about in the second phase of discussion. Obviously, we haven't quite started the studies. The construction arrangement definitely is one of the elements that would be discussed in the second phase. Right, 4 more members after I've drawn the line. Lot 3 minutes each. Mr. Perry Yu. Chairman, thank you. Sorry, I pressed the button before you drew the line, but anyhow, I won't dwell on this. Secretary, this paper is about the 3 major roads and 3 railways. The railways are clear. I don't have any comments, but for the road projects, I look forward to further information, and I hope that there will be more in-depth details. The Yantian district, back in August, has proposed that there will be further development in Sha Tau Kok. There will be redevelopment in Sha Tau Kok, and that will be a premium tourism zone going forward. Now, for this particular road, what is it called? Now, that Northern Metropolis Highway is an east and west connection kind of development, but it hasn't gone as far as Sha Tau Kok. Now, for this Northern Metropolis Highway, it is intended to link up the east and west. Why does it only stop at Lo Wu? Are you going to be extending this to Sha Tau Kok? And what about the roads in Luk Kang area to provide, will this road be widened to provide a corridor for tourism development in that area? And I look forward to more details there. Second, the TKO Yau Tong Tunnel. I don't think there is sufficient information for us to have any meaningful discussion. Now we have the TKO Lam Tin Tunnel, which is about to be commissioned, and we are now talking about the TKO Yau Tong Tunnel. We don't have any detailed information about the exact location, and there is no projection regarding the traffic flow and the population and so on. In Yau Tong, the population is rising, and the vehicular traffic is pretty heavy, and we are concerned about further congestion there. Secretary, I defer to the Commissioner for Transport. Yes, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Mr. Yu. Now, Mr. Yu talked about the tourism corridor in the Northern Metropolis Highway. As my colleague said at the very beginning, we would be also looking at the NT North development study, which is going on at the moment. So this Northern Metropolis Highway certainly offers some room for extension if so warranted. At Shuttlecock, we do have a wide variety of developments. The frontier has also been opened, and we certainly would do more to promote tourism, and Mr. You can rest assured that. As to the TKO Yau Tong Tunnel, we did have a fair amount of discussion earlier when we considered the alignment. I would certainly consider members' views. Now coming out of Yau Tong, or where exactly the exit will be, all these would be considered. The key thing is to deal with the new population arising from Area 137 and also the traffic transport needs there. Predominantly, as the Shatin Central Link is commissioned and the number of cars will be reduced to 9, Israel is suffering from a very, very heavy, very bad congestion. There will be new housing developments along the line. And post-COVID, I'm very concerned about the utilization of the Israel, whether it will be going beyond its capacity. Now, with this central rail link, you are diverting the population from NT-Central and NT-West to this line. If you were connected with Kowloon Tong, I'm really concerned. I was a member of Yau Yat Chun. The Kowloon Tong station is really chock-a-block full. Why don't you consider linking it up with the Chin Wan line or even the Dong Chong line? Why don't you divert the passengers away from the Israel to Chin Wan line? Now, with the new rail coming on stream, there is some spare capacity on Chin Wan line. Why do you have to link it up with Kowloon Tong? Now, Kowloon Tong is the connecting point with 2 other lines already. Highways Director. Thanks very much, Mr. Lee. Well, we connected up with Kowloon Tong. Now, you talked about the lack of carrying capacity. With the commissioning of the cross-harbour line, the Chin Wan line has some more spare capacity, and also in Tuen Ma line as a result of its commissioning. The Israel passenger has been diverted to the Tuen Ma line. That certainly provides some relief on the Israel line. At Taiwan, about 30% of the passengers would be switching over to Tuen Ma line to travel to Kowloon East. So the number of passengers at Kowloon Tong has been reduced. South of Kowloon Tong, the passenger load is much lower than before, so that offers some spare capacity if we take the passengers to Kowloon Tong. That's if we do not connect it up with Kowloon Tong, that would reduce its attractiveness, and passengers may opt for the East Rail line. That certainly would aggravate the situation there. Mr. Lee, well, I don't understand why they would choose the East Rail line. If you connect it up with the Chin Wan line, that would be the solution to the problem, isn't it? Yes, in northern metropolis, if they travel to the harbour metropolis, they would take the East Rail line or the Central Rail line. If they can travel to the urban area faster on the Central Rail line, that would be more attractive. Kam Tin to Kowloon Tong, I also agree with that. Although I like to see some connection with the Chin Wan line to make them more joined up. Mr. Holden Chow, Chairman, thank you. Yes, about this Central Rail link, Kam Tin to Kowloon Tong, that certainly would relieve the pressure on Tuen Ma line. My question is more on Tuen Mun. Now we see the grey line at Khao Yi Chow. It's not the focus of today's discussion. However, I'd like to make one point here. Now, this rail line, this grey line, it should be linking up with So Kwun Wat or Tuen Mun East. At the present moment, the traffic demand is pretty high because of the larger population moving in, and there is only one road there. Now, with this new rail line there, do you have to wait until everything is completed on Khao Yi Chau before you would do anything about the Tuen Mun East and Sunny Bay? I'm not sure whether you can address this question because we're not here to discuss this subject. I'd just like to flag this up. Do you have to wait for Khao Yi Chau to be complete before you can do anything about it? You can move from Hong Shui Kiu, So Kwun Wat, Siu Lam, Sunny Bay. I mean, that way you can alleviate the traffic situation in that area.
My second question, very quickly. I hope that in your 2030 plus plan, well, for Long Ku Tan area that is in the west of Tuen Mun West, I do not see a lot of traffic roads or connections there. We always say that we want to have development of good sectors, for example, modern logistics development, etc. Well, with good employment opportunities, without good transportation network, it's not going to benefit the residents or the public there. And you have not touched upon on Tuen Mun West in your plan because there may be some development of some very good sectors in the coming future. Thank you, Chair. Secretary, please. As for the development of Khao Yi Chau in terms of its railway network, I hear your views. That is whether we can, by phases, carry out the reclamation and prioritize the development projects in the northern part first. I will reflect the views to the Development Bureau and CEDD. For Long Ku Tan, which is located in Tuen Mun West, the peer projects are under the purview of CEDD, and they're reviewing the land development projects there. And based on the land development projects, they will make arrangements for railway system. Thank you. Chair, we see this kind of proposals every now and then from the bureau or department, but they never touch on the cost or where the money will come from. I support this proposal, but what kind of financing methods you will adopt in carrying out the proposals? A lot of times you come to LegCo and ask for funding approval. And you award contracts to MTRC for constructing projects or development projects above MTR stations. Have you explored the pros and cons of various financing proposals so that we would not repeat the mistakes we made? How do you ensure economic benefits to be brought by these railway projects? How do you control costs? Also, how do you introduce different railway operators? Well, this is not mentioned in your papers. Is it going to be operated or run by MTRC alone from planning, detailed design and construction? Would the government consult the public on this regard? Secretary, please. In terms of the financial arrangement and the implementation model, These are all within our area of strategic studies. We used to adopt RSP model as well as the ownership model, etc. In this studies, we will review the model again. Each project may be of a different nature, and there may be something unique to each project. So we have to, based on the nature of each project, consider the financing proposal for them. Well, members also mentioned just now that we should look at the interaction of each project, that is the arrangement of different stations and traffic flow, etc. And we will consider whether we should conduct tendering exercise after reviewing the nature of each project. We will look into this with MTRC. Well, we have overrun a little bit for this item. I would like to extend this meeting to 11:30 a.m. Are there any objections? If not, we will now come to the next discussion items. Thank you, various government officials, for attending the meeting. Our next discussion item is Chuen Wan Line train incident on the 13th of November 2022. We now invite relevant government officials and representatives from MTRC into the room. Members who would like to speak, please press the request button. We'll now read out the names of members who have pressed the button. Dr. Low Kwok, Lau Kwok Fan, Frankie Yik, Michael Teen, Chen Xiu Hong, Luk Chung Hong, Kenneth Lau, Chen Xiu Hong, Gary Zhang, and myself. There are 10 members who have pressed the button so far. When government officials ready, please walk us through the paper. Ms. Amy Wong, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Logistics. Thank you, Chair. We see 400 passenger trips carried by the railway system every day, and the MTRC is duty-bound to ensure the safety of passengers. The government is concerned about the incidents that took place on the 13th of November 2022, and it has instructed MTRC to carry out an in-depth investigation and report to us on improvement measures to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. We understand that members and members of the general public who are concerned about the emergency measures taken on the day of the incident. Regarding contingency plans and arrangements, we have instructed MTRC to report to us on the training of MTR staff and consolidate the experiences they have to carry out improved measures and follow-ups to ensure the safety of passengers. In terms of maintenance and repair, EMSD has instructed MTRC to review and repair the metallic protection barrier parts involved in the incident and also carry out a comprehensive review on the relevant equipment. And EMSD has also engaged experts to provide opinions to ensure that the maintenance and repair plans are adequate. The government will continue to urge the MTRC to carry out improvement works, especially on applying technology to formulate more stringent inspection and repair and maintenance measures for the railway system. The government will continue to monitor the progress of the investigation carried out by MTRC to provide safe and reliable and efficient railway services to the public. I'll now ask representatives from MTRC to give us a report. Ms. Jenny Yeung from Hong Kong Transport Services Director. We're concerned about the incident that took place on the morning of the 13th of November 2022. We here apologize to all the affected passengers. We will review the contingency arrangements of that day, and if there are needs to improve our measures, we will definitely follow up on that. The relevant team has repaired the equipment overnight, and after ensuring the safety of Chun Wan Line services, we resumed the services on the next day, and also on the 16th of November, MTRC submitted a preliminary report to the government. The MTRC also engaged experts from Hong Kong and also overseas to look into the incident to have a summary on the incident. No matter what, the MTRC will continue to enhance its maintenance and repair work and also application of technology on enhancing the asset of MTRC. We will also share with members our investment in train. And we have incorporated smart service to remotely monitor the railway system to provide safe and reliable railway services to passengers. Regarding the cause of the incident and the follow-up actions we took, I will defer to Dr. Tony Lee. On the 13th of November at around 9:30 a.m., a central-bound Chun Wan Line train was arriving at Yau Ma Tei Station 2, and the train stopped after about 2 cars had entered into the platform, and a bogie of the first car went off the rail. And after investigation, sorry, there's something wrong with the projection. It's fine now. Thank you. Please continue, Dr. Tony Lee. When the train arrived at Yau Ma Tei Platform 2, there was collision, causing a bogie of the first car to go off the rail, and a pair of doors facing the platform were dislodged. And the equipment involved is 7 meter high and 2.4 meter wide. We believe that the collision was the major cause of the incident. We have to carry out further investigation to confirm the cause as to why the metallic parts were dislodged. We will, from the wear and tear of the equipment and also environmental circumstances, to investigate into the matter. And also, we will carry out investigation on the track facilities. After the incident, when the MTRC staff confirmed that the train had been stopped, it opened a pair of platform doors at Yau Ma Tei Platform 2 and a pair of train doors and instructed passengers to get off the train. After that, MTRC staff realized that there were passengers who left the train from the rear-end detrainment ramp, and we found out that since the alert from the opening of the rear-end detrainment ramp did not reach the captain, and it was only realized by MTRC staff a few minutes later about the opening of the rear-end door. And we will see how we can improve the communication between MTRC staff and the Operations Control Center. And the relevant train services were suspended after the incident, and we continue operation of the Yau Ma Tei station, and over 350 staff was deployed to the affected stations and disseminate train service information. we asked passengers to use other transportation means to travel to their destinations. There were only 3 stations that were Shamshui Station, Changsha 1 Station, and Lai Chi Kok Station, where alternative rail routes were not available. After the incident, we observed that there was good order at different stations, and passengers were able to find alternative means to travel to their destinations, and we appreciate the understanding of passengers. There were over 150 staff from the repair team who fixed the train, including jacking the off-the-rail wheels back onto the rail and moving the train away from site, and also repaired the damaged facilities, including signaling equipment and power supply system installation. And we managed to resume normal services on the next day regarding the train services on Chunwan Line. We also started to review the same type of metallic equipment in different parts of the railway system. And we have also launched investigation on the incident, and we made a report to the government and the public on the 16th of November. Coming up next, we will carry out works in different regards. First, we have engaged experts to look into the incident. Our target is to finish the investigation within 2 months. And regarding the condition of the metallic parts concerned, we will carry out in-depth investigation to confirm the cause of the incident. We will also conduct a large-scale comprehensive review on the trackside facilities and the relevant equipment with a target to complete it within 6 months. And also to more effectively assist passengers to detrain safely during incidents, we will reinforce training to the Operations Control Center and train staff and train captains. We'll also adopt various approaches to enhance real-time monitoring and early alerts for trackside equipment, such as the use of technology to avoid the recurrence of similar incidents. MTRC is deeply concerned about the incident. We will conduct the investigation at full speed to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. I, on behalf of MTRC, apologize to passengers affected again and sincerely appreciate passengers' understanding and cooperation. Thank you, MTRC representatives.
There are 10 members. Draw a line after Dr. Lo Ai Kwa. Chairman, on Zhengguan Line before there was a serious incident, Tuking Ling and Yao Tong, between the tunnel between these 2 stations, and there was an overhead cable. An anchorage broke, and the cable shifted, and I'm sure that it's still fresh in our memory. A couple of hours delay was experienced, and people couldn't cross the harbour. And after that incident, I've brought this matter up at the panel meeting. I indicated that the government should do a good job in risk management, and they should risk assess the areas for trouble. Now the anchorage broke, and the consequences were so dire. At that time, the MTRC added more anchorages, and it was a very simple solution. That's one of the examples. Unfortunately, I don't think the MTRC has learned any lesson and reviewed the entire operation of the trains. They failed to examine all the structures on the trackside to ascertain whether there were any potential trouble. Last year, at Causeway Bay Station, there was an incident where the doors flew off because the advertising signboard clipped the doors. Now this time you have the metallic protection barrier. They seem to be very simple structure, And when they become dislodged, they give rise to very serious consequences. Now, he said that within 6 months, you will be conducting a very comprehensive review on the trackside infrastructure, and this will be done within 6 months, and there will also be examination and review. And I hope that you will be doing a fine job in risk management. I don't think you should miss out on any minor details. The MTRC up and down the hierarchy should really review the situation. When you, it's only through a risk assessment that you will be able to prevent the trouble. Now, this time there was a collision between the trackside structure and the train, and there were passengers who evacuated from the rear end the trainman ramp. And I hope you would review the situation. Now, with this collision this time, it wouldn't be, didn't cause a lot of trouble. Now, if there is a fire breaking out, how to evacuate the passengers. I hope that you will review the situation in sufficient detail. Well, half a minute for reply. Mr. Lee or Madam Young. Well, we accord a top priority to safety at the MTRC every year, together with the fire services, the police, and the ambulance department. We would conduct drills, and we do have a lot of exercises, and we have regular training sessions. We certainly would examine whether there is any room for improvement in this regard. Mr. Edward Lau. Chairman, the whole situation was so dangerous, and there were many blind spots on the part of the MTRC, and there were metallic protection barriers that became dislodged, and they didn't know about it. And the rear end trainman ramp was activated without notifying the train captain, and they didn't know that the passenger got onto the track. Luckily, no injuries took place. Now, how are you going to resort to technology to make sure that the track will enjoy top level of safety without any blind spots? Second, that the doors flew off, and this very serious incident, other than the delays caused to the passengers, this incident potentially could have caused fatalities. In accordance with the established mechanism, there is a penalty on the basis of the hours of delay. Now, other than the penalty in terms of the duration of the delay, will there be any mechanism to increase the penalty in the light of the potential serious consequences? Ms. Amy Wong, I talk about the penalty first, and the MTRC can talk about the deployment of technology. As a member said, we do have a performance arrangement. We do have a penalty in terms of delays. In our day-to-day communication with the MTRC, or in our inspection, if we spot any irregularities on the part of the MTRC, we can, depending on the situation, take follow-up action. We can issue a letter to the MTRC highlighting all the procedures that have to be undertaken to improve the situation. The top priority is to maintain the safety of the trains. Chairman, in our investigation, we will identify the causes. Certainly, we will deploy technology as a warning, as a kind of preventative maintenance. In a queue train, we do have the smart device whereby if a door is used, we can have a signal transmitted to the train captain and also the OCC, and this arrangement will be deployed to all the trains. And certainly we will be using technology to enhance the management. Mr. Lau, would there be any sensors if passengers are on the track, and you would become aware of that they open the rear end door and there is a train passing by in the vicinity? Now, how do you actually sense the presence of passengers on the track? Mr. Lee? When we identify the causes, we certainly look at the evacuation of passengers onto the track. We will certainly use technology to enhance the safety. Mr. Frankie Yik. Chairman, got a couple of simple questions. Paragraph 5 mentions that you open one platform door for the passengers to evacuate. If you open more doors, then people will not be tempted to use the rear end ramp. And paragraph 6, I think you have addressed this question. There should be an alert signal transmitted to the OCC, not just the captain. I am pleased to hear that this is fitted on the new train. For the old trains, it should not be too hard for them to be fitted. And like Mr. Lau said, you should retrofit some CCTV to pick up people who are not supposed to be on the track. And it's not hard to retrofit. And paragraph 10 says that there is an investigation panel with local and overseas experts. Now, some engineers are asking, why do you have to use overseas experts? Our rail system is very sophisticated. Why do we have to hire overseas experts every time? And B, you will conduct a comprehensive review of the trackside infrastructure. I'm sure that you are doing this now. Have you got any preliminary findings in this regard? Mr. Lee? Chairman, thank you. Now, the train entered the platform partially. There is an alignment between the train doors and the platform doors. So we only open the door wide enough for passengers to leave, and we evacuate about a few hundred passengers. As to the smart devices, like I said, on the new trains, we are using a lot of smart sensors to transmit the signal to the OCC, not just to the train cabin. As to what you mentioned, we will certainly consider that in our report. We will examine whether all these measures will be enhancing the safety. As to the experts, we do have experts running the train, but in this investigation, there are certain specific areas where we hire local and overseas experts to offer their professional input regarding the causes, and that will enable us to do a better job in future. Within 6 months, we will conduct a comprehensive review on the trackside infrastructure and relevant equipment. And all the findings will be sent out in the report. In the interest of time, Chairman, so you will be submitting a report in 6 months' time. You don't have anything new to tell us about. I know that the train is partially entered the platform, so there are not many doors you can open. There is a set of doors you can open wide enough, but further back, I wasn't on the scene. I don't know how narrow the doors could open. If the train catches fire, will you be opening all the doors? Will you be opening all the doors even if they are narrow? So what is your consideration when opening the doors? Mr. Lee? Well, we would allow the passengers to have suitable and safe openings for them to leave the train.
Mr. Michael Teen, thank you, Chair. Transport Services Director, I think the following day of your incident, you made a report, but you left it out in the report today. You said that 2 cars of the train had entered the platform, and after reviewing or assessing the situation, MTRC staff assisted passengers to return to the platform, and in the meantime, the relevant staff have been in close communication, but still there were passengers who opened the rear end door and left the train. That means the train captain was not aware of the situation and did not inform the control center. So the control center was not aware that there were passengers walking on the track. I think in between your lines or wordings, it shows a problematic issue, that is the contingency procedures that you put in place. When there was an incident to the train, and would the control center be able to have the power to assess the situation, or if the train captain was not aware of the situation because there were no CCTV cameras inside the tunnel? I think there is quite a big loophole. In the future, if there are similar incidents, will the control center have the power to assess the situation? If not, trains are traveling next to the incident train, it may cause some sort of other accidents. So would you confer power to the control center, Dr. Lee? In terms of the contingency procedures and the communication made on the spot, we will look into it in detail. So you will not confer the power for a control center to do it, right? Because they were not able to see what happened on the scene. Well, this time you kept passengers walking on the track, but how do we know what would happen in the future if relevant or similar incidents happen again? Well, there were not many trains near the incident site. Why don't you stop all the trains and resume services after you've settled all the problems? And also, I think that you'll have to install CCTV cameras along your railway system. Well, how many of such crossover points concerned are there in Hong Kong or in your railway system? Well, there are various crossover spots in the railway system. I mean, throughout Hong Kong, how many are there? Well, members mentioned the possibility of installing CCTV cameras, and while we investigate into the matter, we'll look into this option and see what we can do. As for the power of the Operations Control Center and what they can do to assess the situation on the scene, all along we have relevant code of conduct or procedures that staff could follow. And in our investigation, we'll see how our Operations Control Center staff can improve in incidents like this in the future. Thank you. Next, Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chair. For the incident that took place on the 13th of November, I think MTRC in terms of their preventive measures that had been put in place and how they assist the passengers to evacuate from the scene. I think they need to really make improvement. My questions are, well, first, concerning the metallic protective barriers involved in this incident, well, how many similar metallic parts like this are in service currently? And also, according to paragraph 9 of the government papers, the administration said that it has already urged the MTRC to strengthen preventive maintenance works and application of technology. What I'm concerned about is that MTRC is quite passive in terms of carrying out preventive measures. They are just tackling the problems when there are issues arising. I think that there should be enhanced assessment work. I agreed with what Dr. Low said. I think the MTRC should apply technology in enhancing its system and do more in assessing the system. For example, installing sensors along the railway system. There should be an AI system to conduct real-time monitoring of railway services. Also, I think what was most terrifying in this incident was that there were passengers who pushed open the rear end doors to leave the train. And due to the damaged facilities, the captain was not informed of the situation or that the alert signal could not reach the captain. I think there should not be similar incidents happening in the future. And MTRC suggested to enhance the alert system. However, you should not only install alert system because the facilities were damaged this time and that the alert signal could not reach the captain. So in the future, would the alert signal only reach the train captain at the cap but not the central control center? I wonder if after you've fixed the doors or alert system concerned, there will be other problems arising in the future. MTRC, please. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your comments regarding maintenance and repair work and also risk assessment. We will look into the issues and make relevant improvements. In terms of resources, we'll definitely invest a lot of resources in terms of money and manpower in enhancing our repair works. And in terms of risk assessment, if we see that there is a need to apply technology, we'll definitely do it. Perhaps Dr. Tony Lee can supplement on the metallic protection barrier. Well, in the coming 6 months, in our review work and inspection work on the metallic protection barriers, we'll look at them one by one and see the conditions of all these metallic parts. And we'll see how we can use technology to expedite our inspection and repair works. Next, Mr. Luke. Well, there are 2 relevant incidents within a year. The last time we had a similar incident was in December 2021. Last time, a convertible trackside billboard was concerned, and this time the train doors were dislodged. It is said here that a consultancy firm would be engaged. I would like to know who is paying for the consultancy services. Are you engaging the consultants yourself and pay for the cost yourself? We engaged the consultants or relevant experts ourselves. Chair, this is where the problem is. Be it consultancy firm or experts, how come you never managed to identify the core problems. Perhaps you don't need to engage a third party or an outside party. I think there is some sort of conflict of interest. At least it gives the general public such impression. You engage a consultancy firm to write a report to the government, and then you're done with your work. How come EMSD does not engage an expert to investigate into the matter? Well, last time you only looked at the billboard. You don't look at the other facilities or equipment concerned. Well, this time it concerns the protection barrier. Next time, when similar incidents occur, it may concern other types of equipment or facilities. Well, this means that the consultants or experts you engaged last time were not really doing their work. So the government, you should not just simply let MTRC to carry out the investigation on their own. Well, every time they're condemned by members from this subcommittee and they submit a report and they're done with their job and they continue to receive money from the government. Well, I will now invite Ms. Amy Wong from TLB to give a response. Thank you, Mr. Michael Luke, for your comments. For this incident, EMSD did engage independent experts to look into the matter. EMSD, please. Well, MTRC mentioned that in the coming 6 months, they will engage consultants to review all the trackside facilities and equipment and conduct a comprehensive review. And for EMSD, our team has engaged experts to monitor the comprehensive review that will be conducted by MTRC. We have engaged experts on metallic materials and to look into their review and to give advice on maintenance and repair of these protection barriers. And apart from trackside facilities, all the other structures need to be reviewed comprehensively by MTRC in the coming 6 months. Regarding asset management and also repair and maintenance work, our experts will also offer advice to us and also monitor MTRC on their review work. Chair, I would just like to add one thing. If EMSD engaged experts as well, I think they should review the work done by the repair staff as well. You do not only identify the cause of the incident, you should also look into the underlying problems and see if there are any human errors involved. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Well, for the incidents that took place on the 13th of November, some doors were dislodged and services along the Chunwan line were affected. Well, MTRC, as the backbone of the railway services, every time there is an incident, it affects the commuting of the general public. So MTRC should definitely be held accountable for this incident and to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. Last year, there was a similar incident in the Causeway Bay Station. Well, there are 2 similar incidents within a year. This is quite rare. As far as we understand, both incidents concern M trains from the UK. Last time when these trains were refurbished or renovated, it was back in the 1990s. With this batch of trains coming to the end of their life cycle, MTRC in 2015 procured 93 China-made Q trains, but they will only be put into services starting from 2024, and the entire replacement of these trains will only be completed by 2029. So my question is, will MTRC expedite the replacement process of the trains? Ms. Jenny Yuan, please. I will give a simple response for now, and I will ask my colleagues to talk about the new trains. Well, for the two incidents, they are not related to train doors. It has to do with the foreign objects. So maybe I can invite Dr. Lee to talk about the new trains. Last Sunday, our Q trains were put into service to provide services to passengers, and they were well received by passengers, and they've been operating smoothly. We invested to procure 93 trains, and before they are put into service, we conduct a lot of system tests as well as static and dynamic tests. So the required time for testing each train, we have to be stringent on that. For the 93 trains, they will be put into service by phases, and by 2028 or 2029, they will all be replaced by Q trains.
So it's got nothing to do with the serviceable life of the M train, Mr. Lee. Well, they've got nothing to do with the life cycle of the M train. And we are devoting resources to maintain the M trains to make sure that they can deliver good service before they are taken out of service. Mr. Chow Siu-chung, well, two incidents of doors being ripped off in 1 year's time, and the MTRC is talking about the door dislodgement. Now, if this kind of incident happened not on a Sunday but on a working day, every carriage is jam-packed with people, and the people are squashed up in such a way that the doors can't even close. Now, what sort of consequences would that be if it happened on a weekday? Now, the train was approaching the station and it has reduced speed, but what if it is running at high speed? It will cause not just doors being ripped off, it will cause a derailment and a severe fatality. I don't think this is acceptable. Two incidents of this nature within 1 year's time. I go along with the other members that the penalty mechanism should not be based on the duration of delays. You should have regard to the seriousness of the incident and when you determine the level of penalty. Second, in the last report, the MTRC said that there would be preventive maintenance that would be introduced. Now, you call this maintenance? Is the existing mechanism for maintenance provide good enough level of service? So has there been any improvement in terms of the maintenance? And also maintenance manpower. I said many times that the core maintenance workers should not be farmed out, but the MTRC is farming out a lot of the maintenance work. The contractors may deploy different batches of maintenance people at different times, and how can you engender a sense of belonging? How can you ensure the quality of service? So I hope that the administration will monitor and supervise the maintenance system and also the outsourcing system on the part of the MTRC to see whether there is any improvement that would be needed. Ms. Amy Wong. Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Chow. Let me first of all say that we do not find this incident a simple incident. We're very concerned about the incident. Like the member said, if it happened on a working day, the impact on the passengers would have been far more severe than what happened on the 13th of November. We will be directing the MTRC to do a better job. In fact, we do have the ETCC, Emergency Transport Coordination Center, which is monitoring the traffic situation round the clock. So members can rest assured that we will follow up on this seriously. As to the preventive maintenance and also the personnel, the manpower of the maintenance team, I defer to the MTRC on this one. Mr. Lee, thank you very much for the question. Now, for preventive maintenance, we will be doing predictive maintenance. We will be resorting to technology to ascertain whether there is any signal that alerts us to the need for maintenance. But preventive maintenance appeared in the report last year, and the problem recur this year. And I think you have to put in place a good enough arrangement. Well, I hope that you will take on board Mr. Chow's point. Mr. Gary Zhang, 3 issues, if I may. And I've got some questions here. The first one is about maintenance. I hope that in the detailed investigation report, and not only do we see the technical issues, I hope that you would ascertain the level of manpower on this particular line, whether the manpower shortage has got anything to do with the cause of the incident. And I think that there should be a causal link between the two instead of just looking at the technical side of the equation. Second, about evacuation, I said that at the very beginning that that's an undesirable situation. I thought it was a human judgment error, but from the information, I know that it seems that there are some flaws in the system, and there's a more likely possibility. And I hope that you will review the situation. You should not pass the buck to the frontline staff. Third, this is for the administration. Now, with this serious incident, how do you quantify the impact on the passengers? The train has been suspended. Now, we understand the duration. How many passengers have been affected, and can you disclose the numbers? Yes. How many passengers were affected? Any numbers there? Chairman, on that day, the MTRC has arranged for shuttle bus to take care of the passengers. 900 trips covering 40,000 passengers were arranged. Dr. Lee, the member mentioned the maintenance and the manpower. In the investigation, we will try to ascertain the causes. If they have anything to do with the manpower, we will certainly follow up on this. As to the smart installation and how we can get to grips with the problems, we will certainly consider this. And in the investigation process, we will try to find out how we can enhance the training, how we can deploy technology for us to improve the situation, and we will certainly make improvement as a result. Mr. Zhang, I've got some suggestion here. You provided the shuttle bus to facilitate the passengers, but it doesn't show how many passengers were affected. Now, if we want to find out how many people were affected, I think we should compare this with a comparable Sunday, or in order to get to grips with the numbers. So when we assess the performance of the MTRC, I think we ought to have all these numbers before we can assess the seriousness of the incident. Mr. Andrew Lam, Chairman. First, about preventive maintenance first. Well, it doesn't matter preventive maintenance or predictive maintenance. Now, for the metallic protection barrier, is it on the list of preventive maintenance? If it is not on the list, my next question then is, for the operational installation and non-operational installation, do you have a list for you to monitor the maintenance? If this metallic protection barrier is in the list of preventive maintenance, then this list doesn't serve any real purpose. Second, about the evacuation, there are some problems with the dissemination of information for sure. So in terms of training of the MTR staff, what more will be done? I know that the MTRC has a college and academy. How can you assist in the more rigorous training on the part of the staff members? MTRC, Dr. Lee, thanks very much for the question. About this metallic protection barrier on the track side, now it became dislodged. We will look at the causes, the maintenance, and also the design. We will go into detail about the causes of this incident. In the next 6 months, we will be conducting a comprehensive review on the trackside infrastructure and equipment to make sure that we'll do a better job in terms of maintenance of these facilities. And all these all the findings will be sent out in a detailed report. As to the evacuation of passengers in emergency, again in this report we will go into detail to see how we can do a better job. We do have the existing guidelines and regulations, and we will enhance the staff training to make sure that they follow all these requirements. And we will also enhance the passenger education about evacuation in an emergency situation. I'm grateful to members for the comments. In the course of the investigation, where we spot room for improvement, we certainly do so. Well, he completely evaded my two questions. Preventive maintenance, does it include the metallic protection barrier? You don't need investigation, yes or no? Dr. Lee, in this investigation, we will see whether the maintenance is up to scratch. But Dr. Lee, is a simple question. I don't want to bring pressure to bear on you. Have you got any list for the preventive maintenance, and does the list include metallic protection barrier? Preventive maintenance, does it include the checking of the barrier? Dr. Lee, this barrier is part of the infrastructure, and the maintenance guidelines include these infrastructure. Now, as to the causes, we have to find out whether the maintenance in this area is good enough. That's an area of the investigation. Mr. Lam, I'm going to submit a letter, but I hope that they will address the issue direct. Yes, I hope that the MTRC would respond to these questions in sufficient detail. My turn next for questioning. Now, we've seen two incidents of door detachment and derailment, and also the escalators broke apart. Fortunately, we saw no serious injuries. It shows that the entire rail system is such a vast system, and the repair and maintenance is a very important part of the work. In terms of manpower, I mean, every single entity is suffering from a manpower shortage. Now, MTR is an important means of transport. 4 million passengers are using the MTR on a daily basis. So your repair and maintenance must be done properly. So what is the state of the manpower situation, in particular the maintenance manpower? What percentage of the work is outsourced? And can you put this kind of outsourced work in the hands of the permanent staff? And I understand that MTRC devotes a lot of resources to maintenance. The system is approaching 50 years and it is aging. Will you be setting up a maintenance fund to ensure that the maintenance level is measuring up to the bar, and this will not be affected by the profitability level?
Let me talk about the cost of the overall maintenance work we carry out, and if there is time, perhaps Dr. Tony Lee can talk more about the manpower. For the cost put into maintenance and repair work, it reaches about $10 billion every year. And we will undertake to continue to accord top priority in asset maintenance. As to whether there will be other maintenance works, we'll look into it. Well, manpower supply has been very tight, especially with the impact of the pandemic and with unclear economic uncertainties. And I think manpower has been a challenge for various sectors, and we hereby appreciate the support and assistance given by our staff. I will invite Dr. Lee to supplement on the manpower arrangement. Well, all along, to provide safe and reliable railway services, it is all rendered by our MTRC staff, and we also monitor our contractors to improve their management to ensure good quality of the work. Well, we haven't stopped recruiting staff, and we are facing challenges in terms of manpower. And with a shortage of manpower, our MTR staff have still been able to keep up with the professional performance, and I appreciate their support. Well, my question was whether you have relevant information showing the ratio of your full-time staff and contract staff. Do you have plans to transfer some of your work to the full-time staff? Well, perhaps I can talk about substitute staff. It accounts for about 10%. Well, our full-time staff definitely account for the biggest percentage. As to whether we will outsource our work or engage contractors, it really depends on our resource management. So 10 members have asked questions for this item. We are now wrapping up with this item, and we'll now move on to the next discussion. That is the progress update on upgrading signaling system for railway lines. And we have the same government and MTRC representatives here. We'll invite MTRC and the government to walk us through the paper. I'll now first invite Ms. Amy Wong. Thank you, Chair. In order to enhance the efficiency of our railway services, the MTRC is carrying out upgrading of railway assets and the signaling system. Since the incidents that took place in the March of 2019, the MTRC has been urging contractor to implement various improvement measures. But with the technical complexity and the work progress has been lagging behind. So after relevant discussion, the MTRC decided to use the core standard products from the contractor instead to enhance the overall performance and safety. And MTRC will elaborate on this later. It is expected that by 2025 to 26, the new signaling system will be put into service for Chunwan line services. And EMSD will continue to monitor the performance service and make sure that the signaling system is safe before it is put into service. And a signaling system integrated platform will be used to conduct simulation, and with the subject to the certification by independent safety assessment consultants, and also a series of on-site train testing carried out by MTRC, and with the endorsement of the relevant government departments, the new signaling system will be put into service. To synchronize with the implementation timetable of the different signalings of the new signaling systems, relevant facilities will be equipped in new trains, and these facilities will be put into service by phases. As mentioned, last Sunday a new train was put into service in Kwun Tong Line. I'll now invite representatives from MTRC to elaborate more on the new signaling system. Thank you, Chair. I will now give members a latest update on the upgrading of the signaling system. We hope that members will understand that this is a very complex procedure and it is a challenging task. We should not hurry and we should do it step by step. And we adopt a pragmatic and practical plan for upgrading the signaling system. We were happy to see that a new Q train was put into service in Kwun Tong Line last Sunday, and the new train has been running smoothly and it has been well received by the members of the public. And I here would like to thank members of the public for their support. And we will now share with members the upgraded services of our new trains. Every year we invest about $100 billion into replacing our facilities, including our signaling system. We put in more resources into our railway services in order to provide a safe and reliable services to our passengers. Dr. Lee, your PowerPoint presentation is quite long. Perhaps you want to keep your presentation succinct. And we also review the system to provide better services. We've been renewing our hardware installation, and the installation has been in good progress. For Chunwan Line and Island Line, the work is complete 100%, and for Kwun Tong Line 99% and Cheung Kwan O Line 90%. What is most crucial now is the software upgrading work. Well, the progress has been smooth, but the work has been challenging. After consideration of various factors, including the complexity of it, and also it is hard for us to completely master the rectification work, we decided to adopt a new approach, and under this new arrangement, by 2025 to 26, new trains will be put into service, as well as the new signaling system will be put into service in Chunwan Line, and we will incorporate relevant functions into the system, including interfacing of various trains and services. Will ensure that it is safe and reliable, and this system has been used in different countries, including Singapore, Malaysia, and Canada. And the new signaling system complies with the standards and requirements of Hong Kong MTRC railway services, and it is technically feasible, and relevant experts agree that it is a safe approach. And we think that this will also save a lot of time for us to modify the system. With the new signaling system, the system will be able to enhance the frequency of trips and enhance carrying capacity in the long run to meet demands for our railway services. And we will draw reference to the experience of putting into service the new signaling system in Chun Wan Line, and the entire work will be completed by 2028 to 29. We'll continue to urge contractors to speed up the implementation of software works, and will also engage independent experts to verify the software to ensure that it meets safety requirements, and will use signaling system simulators to simulate different scenarios as far as practicable. We'll also carry out on-site train tests, and subject to the endorsement of relevant government departments, the new signaling system will commence service. I will now defer to my colleagues to talk about the new trains. As we all know, on the 27th of November, the first Q train was put into service in Kwun Tong Line. There were 700 fans of railway services who took the train, and they had high expectation on the trains, and they were well received by the public. And these 93 trains were the biggest investment we made in the recent years, and some $68 million were put into the investment. And it complies with our stringent standard, and we want to make sure that they operate smoothly. The new trains will be put into service in Island Line, Kwun Tong Line, and Cheung Kwan O Line. While we replace this important asset, we have incorporated new designs into the trains, and I will quickly talk about the 6 upgraded functions of the trains. First, we will see wider boarding and alighting positions, and we have the same number of seats, but we adjusted the distribution of seats in the train, and also there will be more spacious boarding area. And also we deploy grab poles with split pole design so that more passengers will be able to use the handrails. And also we will increase the number of strap hangers per train car from 24 to 27. And we also incorporate ergonomic design in our seats so that passengers can sit more comfortably. And there will be full LED lighting in our new trains, and to incorporate environmentally friendly elements. And also for Chun Ma Line trains and Israel Line trains, there are dynamic route maps providing information to passengers. And also below the seats there will be different boxes, and they're used to remotely monitor train operations, and they can transmit real-time data to our staff to enhance our preventive maintenance using big data analysis. Well, MTRC has been committed to provide safe and reliable services to passengers. With this new trains and new signaling system, we will continue to monitor our service and provide quality services to our passengers. Thank you. Well, we don't have a lot of time left. Well, 3 minutes for each member. We have 6 members who have pressed the button, including Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Michael Tin, Chang Hock Fung, Chen Xiu Hong, Chen Han Pen, and Gary Zhang. Dr. Lo, 3 minutes. Well, do members have objections if I extend the meeting? So 4 minutes for each member. Dr. Lo first. Regarding this signaling system, MTRC said that after prudent consideration, they are going to adjust their plan for the software project, and The time-consuming and complicated software refactoring and rectification work will be discontinued, and the contractor standard core project and configurations will be adopted instead. I think this is a very smart move of the MTRC, but if you had known this long ago, why did you could have adopted this new approach? Well, the problem is that you have too many softwares for your signaling system. So I support this adjustment to MCRC's plan, and hopefully through this plan the progress can be accelerated. I think it's been taking too long, and I wonder if you can further compress your timetable.
Second, I think that the existing trains in operation are safe. The incidents that we saw has got nothing to do with the new train or old train. If the billboard got something jutting out, if the metal barriers become dislodged, then they will cause trouble anyway. Now, the 93 trains have been procured to replace the existing trains. We've made investment, and the traveling public would like to enjoy the use of these trains. The first train was put into service on Kwun Line, and people were really thrilled about this new train. We haven't heard any new songs being composed for that purpose. Maybe there are on the web. I think the time taken is a little bit too long. It wouldn't be until 28, 29 before we see them in operation. So every month we see 1 or 2 new trains. So can't you expedite the process? Can you make it faster? Thank you, Chairman. MTRC, thank you very much. And I'm grateful to members for their support. Prior to the signaling system being put in place, we need to conduct a lot of tests on the software, a lot of simulated tests. Now we put in place the new trains first to be followed by the signaling system. It is intended to allow more time for the system to be tested. And we are going to be having the signaling system soon. Now, as I said, there were 93 trains, and the timetable for commissioning would be 1 train per month. And we have to conduct a dynamic static test. We have to run them for a few hundred kilometers before we put them into service. So we cannot really do away with these procedures. And we also have to tie in with the trains that are reaching their serviceable life. In 28, 29, all the trains will be put into service to tie in with the new signaling system. I hope the members will appreciate that with the investment in new asset, we have to put top priority on safety. Mr. Michael Tin. Dr. Lee. In 2015, the MTRC would spend $3 billion to replace the signaling system. When I was working in KCRC, we used the CBDC 20 years ago. 20 years on, the MTRC is still struggling with the new signaling system for 7 lines. In 2019, the Chunwan line got into trouble. My understanding is that you didn't have the standard plan. You were asking for a specific plan, and there was the backup system, and there was a backup computer system, but the program couldn't be put together. That the CBTC has got a history of 20 years, and this is being adopted the world over. and all the bugs in the software have been debugged. So the standard plan is no problem. But for the special plan that you're asking for, you've been delaying this for about a decade now. Eventually, you are giving up on the original plan. You're asking for a standard plan. Now, my question then is, are you asking them to write the special program without the backup system so they won't switch automatically? If this is the case, then I don't think you would be able to resolve in 3 years what you haven't been able to resolve in 7 years. Now, if you start from scratch, if you were to buy the standard plan, like the West Rail example, then you would stand a pretty good chance of getting this done in 3 years. Now, you're spending $3.3 billion for the standard plan. I mean, with the special plan, you need to spend $2 billion. Are you going to be suing Thales for their inability to deliver? I'm sure you would say that it's some commercial secret, so I'll answer the question for you. Now, my question for the Undersecretary is this. The government is only 70% of the MTRC. We're monitoring the government and the MTRC here. If they refuse to answer this question, we don't know how much money they are spending in addition. And this is not fair to society. The government is sitting on the majority shareholdings, and we'd like to find out more about it. The reason I want to find out is Thales has entered into a contract to deliver the special program, and they can't deliver, and they are reverting back to the standard plan, and I don't think we should pay them any more. Dr. Lee, well, thank you very much for your concern. And what you said is consistent with this new arrangement. And as to the standard configuration and also the software testing and arrangement and so on, we use the original data as the basis. We've accepted the arrangement, and according to the contract, we would clarify the extent of the other parties' liability, and we have reached an agreement which is on the basis of the spirit of the contract. And this is a commercial arrangement. In the days to come, we will be getting on with this new arrangement to make sure that there will be a new signaling system for Chunwan Line in 25-26. Well, how much more did they pay? How many billions? Well, I've got nothing else to add to what the MTRC said. Mr. Chen Hao-fong. Chairman, well, they are really smart in couching the document and the sidestepping some of the issues. And this is really a remedial process to deal with their failure. And I mean, the whole procurement was a failure. Is anybody held liable? No mention of that. What loss has been sustained? No mention of that. And here they depict this as if this is a new arrangement and they have washed the hands of all the liabilities. I think the LegCo should not just take the government's word for it, and we have to ask the question that about things that are not in the paper. In the process, how much more did the MTRC spend? And would that become the reason for them to hike the fare going forward? And how much delay are we talking about? What was the original completion time, and how much delay are we talking about? And how much loss has been sustained? I hope that this will be spelled out in no uncertain terms. Please do not take us round and round in circle. We do have the obligation to keep you on the toes. Right, Ms. Jenny Young, MTRC. Thank you very much for the question. As to the dollar sign and the fare to be borne it will not happen because we do have an adjustment mechanism for the fare. So whatever the outcome, there will not be any implications. As we said, this project is challenging, and we have changed the strategy. So this will not affect the use of the new trains because we have adopted the proposal, the plan to introduce the new train first before we put in the new signaling system. And we can achieve the highest possible standard. As to the timetable, as Dr. Lee said, the new train and the signaling system will have explained the situation to members. We believe that this arrangement would not have any negative impact on the traveling public. Mr. Chen, I beg to differ that there is no impact on the traveling public. How come there was no impact? You have the fare mechanism. It seems as if there is no impact, but we have to bear in mind that the government is the majority shareholder. If you spend more, then the dividends payable to the government will become less. Why is it there is no impact? Ms. Young? Well, as to the discussion of the contract with Thales and how much more money did we spend? As Dr. Lee said, we act in accordance with the contract. We did have a negotiation by switching over to another plan. It doesn't mean that we have to increase the price tag. We have to follow the contract and all the timing and so on. We did have a very detailed discussion, and we also explained this to the board, which is represented by the government, and they directed us to make sure that everything is done right. Mr. Chen, anybody should be held liable. Well, now will you leave it until later because of the time constraint? Mr. Chen Xiuhong, well, the government or the MTRC is changing the arrangement. They have discontinued with the software refactoring and rectification model, and they are using the standard core product and configuration of the contractors. I don't have an objection as long as the new signaling system is going to be stable and safe and will increase the headway. Even if there is a 1 year's delay, it is still acceptable. There are 3 questions, if I may, Chairman. First, some of them have been addressed. I'd like to be more specific, though. Prior to the new signaling system is in place, how can the MTRC make sure that the existing signaling system, which has been in use for so many years, will continue to be reliable? Can we make sure that the maintenance of the software and hardware will be in no doubt? Second, back in 2015, $3.3 billion was spent to replace the signaling system for 7 lines. Now, with the new arrangement, doesn't mean that that would incur additional financial outlay. Now, Dr. Lee and Ms. Young said that there was negotiation with the contractor. If there was additional financial outlay, how much are we talking about? Also, some said that the MTRC should really underwrite the additional charges without passing it on. Also, with the old and new signaling system, how can we have a good enough interface between the 2 systems? With any changes, Mr. Chairman, there would be risks. In particular, the signaling system changes. If we have to switch over from the old signaling system to the new signaling system, it might cause the whole system to grind to a halt if done improperly. So can you give us any reassurance that you will be able to do a good enough job? MTRC, if I may, Chairman, couple of questions there. If I may address some of them, and Dr. Lee can address the interface on the technical side and how we can make sure that there will be a proper interface between the systems. In terms of resources, for the existing signaling system, we have devoted resources to the maintenance and repair to make sure that they are up to scratch. And the systems are in continued operation. We have devoted resources there. Now, with this new strategy, we make sure that the new trains can run on the existing signaling system. And we deploy the internal resources to make this happen. Obviously, I have to reiterate that these will not have any implications on the passengers because the fare is determined in accordance with an objective system. This is only internal deployment of resources. As to the increase in the headway, Mr. Chan can rest assured with the commissioning of the East Rail, there is a diversion effect. The Chinwan line has a reduction of passengers by 20%. So in terms of capacity, there are no problems at all as to the interface. I defer to Dr. Lee.
Simple answer, please. We will make sure that we do the simulation test and have experts review the test result. And this is what we prioritize for the moment. Mr. Gary Zhang, thank you, Chair. First, I have a question for the government. The current signaling system and trains, they must be safe before they were put into service. Is that right? So it would not be the case that the current signaling system or trains are not safe for use. I just want the government to clarify on this point. And on replacement of trains, each new train will have to be approved by EMSD, and you have to ensure that each train is safe before it is put into service. Is that right? From the delivery of the train to Hong Kong to the time when it is put into service, what is the procedure that has to be put in place, and what is a reasonable time frame for a new train that is delivered to Hong Kong to be put into service? Mr. Raymond Poon from EMSD. Thank you, Chair. When a new Q train is delivered to Hong Kong, apart from a series of tests to be carried out by MTRC, our inspection team from EMSD will also monitor the testing process carried out by MTRC, and we'll look at the test results as well. Apart from testing the hardware, and there has to be a 600-kilometer reliability test to be carried out by MTRC. And once it's passed that reliability test, it will carry out on-site tests or undergo on-site tests. So they have to pass a series of tests like these. How about the time frame? Thank you, Chair. Regarding the time frame, well, as mentioned, MTRC will carry out a series of tests on the new trains, including the 600-kilometer essential tests. Based on the experience we had for the first batch of new trains, after they're delivered to Hong Kong, there's some assembly work that needs to be done relating to the components and parts, so it will take about a year. Well, it took a year for the first train, but it won't take a year for each new train that's coming to Hong Kong. Is that right? Thank you, member, for the question regarding the tests on the trains. As mentioned, we will roll out one train per 1 month, so it will take about 3 to 4 weeks to carry out the static and dynamic tests, and also tests to be carried out during night time. So if there are no failures after the train runs for 600 kilometers, it passes the test. if there are failures during the 600-kilometer journey, it will have to undergo the test all over again. And this is a test that has been in place for a long time. So by 2028, all the new trains will be put into service. As to the current signaling system and current trains, as mentioned by Ms. Jenny Yeung, we will continue to review the safety and we will continue to put in resources to carry out maintenance and repair work to ensure that we provide safe and reliable services to passengers. Thank you. Well, Ms. Chang Hok Fong asked a similar question just now, but there was no time for response. Regarding the procurement of the previous signaling system, and it was later found that it was not compatible, well, it was asked whether the government will hold anyone liable. Perhaps the government can give a response. Thank you, Chair, for the question. Well, we have members sitting in the board of MTRC, so we've been following up on this matter. Well, other relevant government departments have been following up closely on this matter apart from us. On this matter, I think we have all gained experience from it. Over the past few years, we have been wanting to do well in the ratification work for the software system, but there were too many uncertainties, and that's why we made adjustment to our plan. As to anyone will be held liable or accountable, well, every year in our board meetings, concerning the salary adjustment, we tie it in with the performance of MTRC. So I think we will handle this matter in a similar approach. I think it takes great courage to make adjustment to this plan, because if you stick to the previous signaling system, it will just be a waste of time. So if you adopt a more mature signaling system, I think it's a more appropriate way to handle it. I think it takes courage to make such changes. But even so, you'll have to face a series of risks with the new signaling system, because you've got new signaling system on one hand and new trains on the other. So I hoped that MTRC and relevant government departments will continue to follow up on it. We see that a number of rail fans who have an affection for the M train and the Q trains, and around the world we see that there are various exhibitions of trains. Well, in Hong Kong, and it is quite well known for the development of its railway system. I want to know, after these old trains are retired, does the government have plans to store these trains or hold exhibitions? For example, would you build a railway museum as a collective memory for the general public? Thank you, members, for your suggestions. I would like to invite MTRC to talk about the arrangements for retired trains. Ms. Yeung, please. We have considered placing or storing the retired trains and to display them in exhibitions for general public, and we have had different partnerships with the community organizations or groups. Well, we have a pilot scheme, and different organizations asked us for train components or parts, and to continue their life cycles in other projects or in different forms to leave a good memory for the public. Any other questions? Well, we've overrun, but members had the chance to ask questions. If there are no other business, meeting adjourned.